Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I wanted to invite back Laura Friedman Williams, who is an author of an incredibly interesting book called Available, which is all about life after life and sex and dating after divorce. And it's a book that I connected up with, and an individual I connected up with back a month or so ago, and we had I thought, a fascinating first chat. And then, Laura, I got to tell you, over Labor Day weekend, I downloaded your book and listened to it all weekend long, and I think I sent you a message about this. I felt like we'd become fast friends, even though it was only one way, me listening to what you had to say. And I felt so sad when the weekend was over and I didn't know what was going on afterwards. I wanted to hear sort of the rest of the story. But it was really interesting.
That's amazing.
Laura, in her book, what she does is she goes through a bunch of, number one, a whole story about her divorce and why the marriage didn't work and what happened with the divorce and how traumatic that was. And that was really quite interesting. But then what you do is you go through, I guess, 6 different gentlemen that you were with post.
A few more than that.
Okay. Well, yes, you're right. A few more than that. And it was really quite an interesting. And then I started evaluating which one I would have been if I was lucky enough to be one of the ones. And it was fascinating because I came to the conclusion that I would have been number 6.
Well, he's the one that stayed, so nice job.
Well, but I think our personalities and the style was very similar. So it's interesting. I felt like I was almost living in your book. It was interesting.
That's amazing.
It was a wonderful story.
I love that. I mean, are you somebody's number 6?
I am not somebody's number 6.
Well, there's still hope. There's still hope.
So tell me, what motivated you to write this book and to be so open about the 6+ people that you had slept with after your divorce?
I think that for me, writing the book, there was such a seismic shift in my life. The life I'd been living, I was very intent on living for the rest of my life. I had no interest in altering my life. I wasn't somebody who was having a midlife crisis and was like, hey, you know what? I'm actually not that happy. I was happy and I intended to stay. And my husband's infidelity changed the narrative for me. So things took such a different turn than I ever would have imagined that I thought it was an interesting story, and I thought it could be interesting to other people going through traumatic changes in their own lives, not just because of divorce, but for any reason, to understand that if you're open, anything can happen. I never would have seen my life taking the direction it took. And I really was fascinated, like objectively looking at myself, that a life could take a turn like that. So I wanted to share that. And once I started sharing, I wanted to share everything because I've always been a very open and honest person. And I never want to tell half of a story. So it just sort of felt like either you do it or you don't. Either you put it all out there or you just keep it private. And so I just put it all out there.
And what you had said is that a lot of your girlfriends listened to the stories, loved them, and encouraged you to write the story. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, my girlfriends were awesome because they were like my cheerleading team. And there was, there were some different things going on. One is that they loved me. They wanted me to move on. They wanted to see me be happy again. And my adventures were making me happy. And that helped them cheer me on. The second thing is that a lot of them are in really long marriages. And they were like, wow, what would happen if I was single and found myself in a man's hotel room, and I could do anything I wanted. So they were like hanging on every word. So there were 2 things happening. The cheering, for sure, it was coming from a place of love. And then also just like a sort of 50 shades of gray curiosity of what sex life could be like as a single woman in her midlife.
And tell us, what is sex life like for a single woman in her midlife?
It's awesome. It's like the best thing ever. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like, I mean, the last time I was single, I met my husband when I was 20. So I'd had a few sexual experiences, not many, and I enjoyed it. But, I was young. I was worried about getting pregnant. I was worried about getting caught. I was, there were roommates coming and going. There were always, it was like thrilling and new and fun. But there were always circumstances, that made it a little bit stressful. And then I was with my husband, and then we had 3 children. And then it was a whole different layer of sex is like quick and on the sly, because, you know, there's a kid who's about to walk in all the time. And so being free now, I just feel so liberated, because I sometimes have to remind myself, I can have sex with whoever I want to have sex with. And I'm not looking for a relationship all the time. I mean, I'm actually in a relationship with somebody and we have a really nice sex life, but, you know, I could still have a one night stand if I wanted to. I feel so free. Like, I love having sex with different people, and I feel like I can do anything I want. And I know I can't get in trouble anymore. I can't get pregnant. I mean, I don't know, maybe I still could, I doubt it. But, you know, I know myself, I know what I like, I know what I don't like, and I feel free to do whatever I want.
So what's the lesson of the book in your experience? Is it to go and sleep with a whole bunch of people, or is it just to be open to, you know, new things? Or what's the message that you want people to get from reading your book?
That's a good question. It's definitely not to go out and have a lot of sex. That worked for me. I'm very clear about this. That really was effective for me. And there are a lot of women, by the way, for whom it is effective. A lot of people have told me they did similar things, had a lot of sex after a marriage ending, and it really made them feel empowered. You don't have to do that, but you do have to find yourself, and you have to empower yourself. And whatever that means to you, however you get that, that is my message. You can do that. You can be a different person, and really embrace the new you, and grieve the life that you lost, that you loved, while still being open to the different life that you could have. And those are not, so giving up on one, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both. I still am sad a little bit that my marriage I didn't get the long lasting marriage. I still have pangs, you know, of seeing people together who've been together for years and seeing their anniversaries and their family portraits. I still feel it. I didn't.
But you would have had to miss out on the last couple of years of incredible sex.
Yeah. And I wouldn't give that up for anything. So I can miss it and not want it back, you know? And I think that that's what I've come to realize, is that you can feel both. It's okay to mourn your marriage and also to want something totally different. It's okay also to be a woman in your midlife who loves her independence, loves her sexual freedom, and loves the fact that she can do whatever the fuck she wants. Sorry, am I allowed to say that on radio? I mean, no. Sorry. My point is, I really was dictated in my life until I was 47 by the roles that I had taken on: wife, mother. That was pretty much it for me. And when I was released from being a wife, I had to find myself again as a woman. And that enabled me not only to have this really fun and, you know, year or two of just crazy sex, but I also found my voice as a writer. And I don't know that it would have happened. The sex gave me the voice to write, and it's all cyclical. So anything can happen. You know, it doesn't have to be writing. It doesn't have to be sex. Whatever your thing is, you can go and find it. And that,
I guess what I got out of the book is that divorce isn't an end.
No, it's the end of a marriage, and maybe the end of one way of life. It's not the end of your life. It's the end of a chapter. And I think if you can see it that way, and also I think it's very unhealthy to look at anything you've committed a lot of your time to as saying that was not a success. So my marriage ended. It wasn't unsuccessful. I had a good run. We had a really good run. We produced 3 incredible children. I wouldn't trade them for anybody in the world. So I see it as really a successful 27 years that we had together. And now I'm in my next chapter.
We're chatting tonight with Laura Friedman Williams, who is an author of a book called Available. Laura, where can people get the book?
Anywhere really. It's on Amazon. You can order it on Amazon. You can download it and listen to it on audio. I recorded it, so it's my telling of my story. It's available as an ebook. If you're outside the U.S. and Canada, like if you're in England, it's also available in bookstores. Right now, I think it's only available in U.S. and Canada on Amazon, but it is totally purchasable there.
We're going to take a break and come back more with Laura Friedman Williams in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm chatting again tonight with Laura Friedman Williams, who is the author of of a fascinating book called Available Dating and Sex After Marriage. Laura, I mentioned to you that I listened to it over the Labor Day weekend, and you did record it yourself in your own voice, and you're very personal in your stories and very forthright in your stories, and I really felt like you were, a friend of mine, just telling me your whole story, and I became so involved in your story. It was, I guess it's number one, beautifully written, and number two, the stories are funny and interesting, and one or two of them were not fun and interesting, and that was also part of experience. I think it was number 4.5
Yes.
that I remember was not such a good story, but that's part of life and part of reality.
And learning.
I really felt like I got to know you.
I love that. That makes me so happy. That's like the best compliments I could ever get.
Have other people had a similar reaction?
Yeah, people have said, I feel like you're my friend now, and I miss you. And I love that, because I think I really put it all out there. And for people to feel that they know me, and for me to know that I really put out my authentic self. So they're not knowing a version of me. That was me on those pages. I mean, I think I told everything that was, whether it was flattering to me or really embarrassing or humiliating or, whatever, I put it all out there. And it really is wonderful that people connect to me that way, because I love to hear from people, and I love to know that I had any kind of an impact, or that people felt that I was good company. I mean, what an honor for me to be able to do that for people. It's really thrilling.
Labor Day weekend with you.
Well, I'm even more fun in person, believe me. But I'm glad you felt that way, and I'm glad that you found the stories, fun or scary or whatever. They ran the gamut. I think when you tell such a personal story, you sort of have to embrace that you're putting it all out there, and then people feel like they do know everything about you. Sometimes I'll say to somebody that I meet, like, oh well, I like it. I like things this way, or I don't. Whatever. And they're like, yeah, we know everything. We know everything. Like, right.
And I'm okay with that. Everything? Have you got everything in the book?
I mean, I really told everything. Like, I can't think of, you can ask me anything that you think wasn't in the book, and I'll answer it for you. I mean, I can't think of anything. I mean, I really got personal. I talked about how confusing it was to have sex in the beginning when I was, newly single, that I didn't understand the rules, and I was super awkward a lot of times, or I did things out of turn. And I talk about that, and I talk about how I developed a language for sex, because I didn't have that either. Some of the words that people use when they're talking about sex, I didn't even have that. I talk about, going to consult magazines to up some of my tactics, because I'd been really out of practice. So yeah,
What type of tactics you have to update?
Well, just some sexual ones, things like, I mean, Cosmopolitan is a font of information. If you need to up your game in any way, you just Google, yeah.
One of the things you talk about a lot, and I think you recently talked about on a podcast with someone else, was hair.
Yeah.
Tell me.
It's such a popular topic.
Why?
I don't know. Everybody's obsessed with pubic hair. It's so interesting to me. So I wrote an article for Vogue UK, and they said, they asked me to write a piece about my book, and I used pubic hair as the lens through which I was talking about the difference of being a woman who was single at 20 and a woman who's single now at 50. And what I talked about was pubic hair, because when I was 20, it was still a thing. Like, we had it, I had lots of it. And when I went back out into the world of dating, what I found out was that men really didn't want women to have hair anymore. It was all about the Brazilian, which, leaves a little, I guess, landing strip, or the Hollywood, which is like, there's no hair at all. And a few men brought it up with me. So I wrote this Vogue article, and I sent it to a friend to say, what do you think? And I said, at least now I'm up to date on the trends. And she writes me back and she says, I hate to tell you this, but you're behind once again, because Vogue just published an article about how a full bush is back. I said, I cannot keep up with this. I can't get it right. So that was part of my article too, was the fact that, well, I'm not in Vogue. I mean, I'm not in the current trend because I decided to stay hairless. But many women have this experience of going back out in the world and finding out that what worked when we were 20 and what men liked back then. No. And it's okay. I'm okay keeping up with some trends as long as, I like it. I have to like it. If I don't like it, I'm not doing it for anybody.
Now but you felt insulted at one point in time. I can't remember which number it was when some guy asked you and frankly, almost more than asked, I'm close to demanded that you go get waxed.
Well, 2 men did actually, number 5 and number 6. And number 5, I didn't like enough to really feel that I was going to alter anything for him. I was just like, no. Number 6 was trickier because he and I had sort of really started to form a relationship, and it was like a personal preference. So I didn't feel that he was asking me to change myself for him. I felt that he was letting me know that something was more of a turn on for him. And that's open communication. He didn't say it as I felt insulted, but when I really thought about it, I realized it was just him expressing something that he prefers. And if we were going to be together, you know what? I've got things I prefer too. I mean, I personally don't want to also get a mouthful of someone's hair. So, fair enough.
So tell us what is the trend in the 6+ men that you have been with, or what do you prefer?
Hairless. You mean in terms of hair, or just in general?
For men.
Yeah, I mean, I like a man to be well groomed, and I also like a man to be in shape. Like I like a fit man who is groomed, who manscapes.
So it's what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Yeah, it works. It's all around. I did a podcast with this comedian recently. She was so funny. She said, but if you both are bare and there's like any like hair growth and then it's like stubble, you're like Velcro, you're like cheap people. And I said, well, you can't do that. If you go bare, you have to be committed to it. You've got to keep it up. It's like anything. You throw yourself into it,
What are the other trends or things that have changed dramatically since you were 20?
Well, when I was 20, I don't remember using condoms every time. I used birth control. I was probably in the pill and that was that. I don't think that we were so conscious of STDs, and this was, before AIDS. I now am, that's one trend. Like I think most men and women are very adamant that condom always has to be used. I won't have sex with a man, with a sexual partner without a condom. So that's
other
one
than
thing.
Number 6.
Well, right, because we're in a relationship and it's been a long time. But if there was anybody else, I wouldn't. That to me is like a big step in a relationship when you decide to go condomless. That means like you may as well put a ring on my finger. Honestly, that's how committed it feels. Other trends, I think by the time people are in midlife, like they kind of really know what they need sexually. So I find like, a lot of men want to have anal sex. I'm just going to say it's not my thing. Oral sex, all men seem to be really super into it. Those are, the things that I find pretty much.
To be candid, reading your book, I got the impression you were kind of into it, to receiving it as well.
Yeah, I like it. I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. I like it. I think I also like how much men like it. Like it's, when you see somebody that is just like totally like turned on by you, it's a turn on, when they like something so much. Sometimes, I asked men, sometimes I'd be like, why do you like that so much? And I was just always, it was like, it was very sensual. It's like, it's a very sensual thing where there's like a lot of senses that are part of it. I think like the smell and the taste and the, more so than just like, sex, that oral sex, there's more of a sensual experience. I think for a lot of people, they feel that way. For me, I don't know. I'm not sure how I think about it that way, but
you describe in a lot of the experiences that was one of the first things gentlemen did with you.
Yeah. Always.
You seem to enjoy it, and it achieved the intended result. So
sure. Yeah. I'm always. I'm interested. I'm like a sexually curious person. Also, like now that I'm like, I don't I love my body. I'm not ashamed. I feel like I know what I can do. I know what feels good, what doesn't. So that's all very empowering. I think that's one of the other things about just saying, like, I'm going to go out on this fact finding mission and have sex with a lot of people. And it's really so that I understand what I want and what works for me. And so it's not like even like a girl gone wild, and like trying to sow her wild oats. There was some of that, but it was also just trying to understand. It's like if you're trying to learn something, you got to do it a lot. And I was trying to learn what I liked and what was important to me, and what I wanted my sex life to look like going forward. So I practiced a lot.
You described this experience with this guy down in the Caribbean. What was his name? I can't remember right now.
Blaze.
Blaze, yes, Blaze. And he was someone who you had met on a couple of different vacations previously, and
Yeah.
you had developed this fantasy about, and you went and fulfilled the fantasy with him.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Was it as good as you dreamed?
No, it's a little exhausting, to be honest with you. Like he was, he was really young, like in his early 30s, maybe, and really fit. And he had a lot of energy. And after a while, I was like, oh my God, I just want to go home and go to bed. Like, I just want to crawl into my clean hotel sheets and go to sleep. I think I've had enough. So it was like the thrill of the hunt, I would say. Like, this is a man that I've had my eye on for years, but I was married. I wouldn't do anything. I just kind of like even fantasized aloud about him. I wasn't like quiet about him. I would talk about how breathtaking I found him, even to my husband. But I mean, it was just talk. And so when I went down there and I was single, my goal was like to get him to notice me. It was like I had gone shopping for bikinis, like it was a mission, so that I would find the perfect bikini that when I put it on, he would be like, there she is, here she comes. And it worked. And so it was so thrilling to get this man to notice me and to want me. So some of the fantasy absolutely was amazing. But by the end of that night, he was number 10. And really by the end of that night with him, I was like, you know what? I got it. I got it. I know what I want. I know I'm wanted. I desired. I desire. I can cool it now because I'm just tired.
And you never went back for a return visit?
With him?
Yeah.
No, he had suggested we meet the next night, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I'll be with the family. I mean, it wasn't that I didn't want it again. It was just like, I felt like once was enough. Like I met my goal. My goal was to be devoured by this man, and I was, and devoured. I didn't need it again. I was devoured.
Does the most females want to be devoured at least once?
I believe so. And I don't know if they're not saying that they want to, then either they just haven't been devoured in a while and forgot what it feels like, or they're maybe a little out of touch with themselves sexually. Because I think most people want to be devoured. I mean, I think most people want to be desired, right? That's what's hard about having sex with the same person for decades, is the desire wanes. And I think that's one of the hard things to keep up. So my experience with my friends, because we're very open about this topic, obviously, is that they want to be desired. And that means for me, desire and devouring, it's all sort of the same category.
So given the experience that you've had, if you were in a long-term relationship again, and it sounds like you might be with number 6, how do you keep that desire? How do you keep that devour?
Yeah, I think about that a lot. And 6 and I talk about it a lot because it's something that I'm concerned about. We're going on 3 years. And so I want to make sure we preserve that. One of the ways I think in which we've been able to preserve it is that we don't spend huge amounts of time together. I still have children living at home. So I'm home with them most of the time. And then he and I will have, a weekend night together, a couple nights here and there. So we still, even though we're very connected emotionally, physically, we're still leading very, separate lives. So when we haven't seen each other for a week, the chemistry is still there. The desire
But you
is
said
still
that
there.
you talk almost every night before you go to bed.
Yeah, we always talk. I mean, as I said, we're very emotionally connected. It's not like, okay, well, see you next Saturday. We're talking, multiple times a day. We have a very deep connection, but we're not seeing each other. So if we don't see each other for a week or two, or recently I was in California with my kids, so we didn't see each other for like almost 3 weeks, then the newness is still there. And we have such good chemistry, I think, that when we haven't seen each other for a few weeks or even a week, when we see each other again, like we're really excited to see each other again. And the desire is still there. I think when that goes away, it'll be an issue.
When you were
if it goes away.
When you were describing number 6 and his personality traits and the way you interacted and the things he did, I identified with number 6, except for one thing.
What was the thing?
He allowed you to go see Blaze. And if anything, he almost encouraged you to go see Blaze.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know if I could have done that. How did number 6 put up with is not the right word.
Allow, tolerate, encourage.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's a very good question. And I don't want to put words into his mouth. I think, first of all, he's evolved as a human being. I think that he understands that this is who I am. And if he wants to be with me, and then he has to embrace all of who I am. And that this is an aspect that I just can't put away. And I have made it clear, if I had to put this aspect of myself away, if I had to put myself back into a box, I would have to walk away from the relationship because I can't give that up. Maybe someday I'll be ready to. I'm not now. I'm 3.5 years out of my marriage and I'm not. And I think that he's willing, he accepts it. I don't know, he might want it other ways, but he accepts that this is what I need. And he's so supportive of me and encourages me to be who I am and who I am becoming along this journey, that he understands. It's just one of the risks that is inherent, is that I may still have a one night stand with somebody. And, our deal is that I would tell him, I don't like secrets. I think communication is the most important thing. So I would tell him if I did. I don't think it's easy for him. I don't think he's like thrilled with it. I don't think that he feels, I don't know if he would prefer that I not. He doesn't say I would prefer you not. He just doesn't say it. Which is interesting. I guess
if he had the female equivalent of a Blaze fantasy and wanted to fulfill it, what would you tell him?
Go for it. I mean, we joke about it all the time. Like when I'm out of town for a few weeks, or he knows he's not going to see me because I've got the kids home and he's not going to see me. We joke that he's got to, brush up his match profile. He once jokingly said, well, you're the writer. Can you like redo it for me? And I was like, no, I'm not helping you. You can do what you want, but I'm not like aiding and abetting this. But I guess I haven't been in that position yet. I'm definitely don't want to ever be a hypocrite. So if he wants to, he should. If he's curious, then he should. I think he and I are in different stages. Like he had a very long bachelorhood. He didn't settle down until he was in his late 30s. So he had many years of relationships and of having sex with different women. And so he experienced something I didn't. And he understands that there's a difference between us because of that. But I'm sure I'd be very, I'm sure I would feel a little threatened and a little jealous. But I think I'd also be kind of impressed. Like, wow, look at you. You got a lot of energy.
We're chatting with Laura Friedman Williams, the author of a fascinating book called Available about dating and sex after divorce. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Laura in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm having a fun chat tonight with Laura Friedman Williams, who's the author of a book that I had the opportunity to listen to, not read, but listen to via Audible. It's called Available, Dating and what's the exact subtitle? Dating and Sex After Marriage?
Sweet. Available, a memoir of sex and dating after a marriage ends.
And it's available on Amazon, at bookstores, and on Audible. And as I was telling Laura earlier, I spent Labor Day weekend listening to her. She is the what do you call it? The person who speaks, reads.
The narrator.
The narrator, thank you, of the book herself. So I really felt not only listening to her stories, but listening to her voice that I spent Labor Day weekend with her and became engrossed and just loved the stories and learned a lot. I got to ask you a couple of other questions. I have a dog. Given the experiences that you've had with dogs, what rules have you got for men with dogs?
Oh my God, keep the dog out of the bedroom. That's rule number one. The dog has to go out of the bedroom. Don't let the dog on the bed, and don't let the dog watch from the side of the bed. Like that, it's just very clear. This is a line in the sand.
But the other thing is that you got upset when people had to walk the dogs when they brought you home. So they brought you home from something, and then they'd walk the dog before they could come back into the bedroom with you.
Okay, well, that's fair though. I mean, they have to walk the dog. It's fair. Like I have to wait to be devoured because the dog has to be walked. Okay. But then don't let the dog in the room. Honestly. I mean, there was one night with this dog watching me. It was like the most jarring experience I've ever had, to be given like the side eye by the jealous dog. And I was so happy because at one point, by the time I got to number 4, he like kind of pushed the dogs out of the house and closed the door. And I was like, thank God, because sometimes you kick the dog out of the room and you still hear the dog whining on the other side of the dog and on the side of the door. So that's my big advice. If you have a dog, just church and state. The dog can't be in the bedroom.
The other thing that I found interesting, well, I found lots of interesting things, but obviously I was reading it from a male's perspective.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And trying to learn some lessons. You were initiator often.
Yeah.
And was that good or was that bad? What do you like it when the man is the initiator, or do you actually like it? And is this something that you enjoyed in your middle age that all of a sudden you got to be the initiator? Tell us a little bit about what those relationships are like.
I think I like it both ways. I'm fine either way, but I did find it very empowering to be the person who could initiate it, because that had never been my experience. My experience was always very sort of like patriarchal, like the man pays, the man decides when he's going to kiss you, the man decides when he's going to have sex with you. Like it's all sort of in his hands and you're just sort of waiting for it to play out. And I realized that didn't have to be the way, that I could absolutely take control and say what I wanted or have what I wanted. So I did learn to initiate because I wanted, as I said, I felt like I was really on a fact-finding mission. So I wanted most of my dates to end with sex. And if I had to make that happen, I would. I had a couple of interesting experiences with that. One man told me afterwards that he found it like too forward, that when I had done it, and he stayed with, this was number 5. And we continued to date, but he told me later that he had found it very, he was surprised by it and taken aback by how quickly he wanted it to unfold a little bit more naturally. And he felt that I was almost aggressive.
Yeah.
And so that was a lesson for me, also like, okay, respect that, like some men want to move slower. It's not a one person show, right? Like I certainly didn't like it when I wasn't ready to have sex with somebody, and I did, and number 4.5, this is, I didn't want to have sex with him. I wasn't ready to. And he made moves very quickly and I acquiesced, which is, another whole different subject. And that was very upsetting for me. And then with number 6, like he didn't even kiss me goodnight. So I was like, this is not how I go. I don't roll like this. But I think he was a little nervous and he was very respectful and a little old school. And so I made all my best moves to try to get him there. And he wasn't going for it. So I don't know, I think it's okay. I think it's okay for women. I just feel like all the things I understood about the rules of engagement for women in sex just sort of went out the window. And I think I really embraced that. Like, I'm not going to wait for a man to make a move. If I want to make a move, I'm going to make a move. I'm strong. I'm independent. I'm powerful. I get to do what I want.
I can't remember which one, but one of them was recommended to you by a girlfriend. And it was a guy that she had admired at a gym.
Oh, yes. That was number 4. No, 3, 4. Mm-hmm.
And then maybe she was fantasizing about him or just thought he was perfect and wanted to hear all the stories, wanted to hear all the details.
She definitely did. Yeah. Sorry. What was that?
Did you have many experiences like that where people set you up with people that maybe they really wanted and they wanted to hear all the intimate details?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people would try or, it just didn't work out, or they would say like, okay, I've got my eye on, you should go into the store on 10th Street because the guy who owns the store, like you'll die when you see him. Like, please go and make something happen and report back to me. I definitely had a lot of experiences like that. I didn't do so much of that following up. I think, if people wanted to set me up with people, like my pediatrician set me up with her friend's friend, and she was like, he's a great guy, and and I went on a blind date with him, and he was fine. So yeah, they wanted to know about it, and they knew that I would give them the details. They knew I was a very willing participant. I think I learned, I think the important thing I want to say here is like, what I learned is along the way is like, sex is sex. Like it's just like anything else we do. We talk about everything. So why shouldn't we talk about that? Like most of us are having it. Most of us want to be having it. A lot of us want to be having more of it. I'm not ashamed of it. So why shouldn't I talk about it?
You had a thing with a guy that had a motorcycle and a motorcycle helmet. You talked about the motorcycle helmet being on the bedside when you were doing it, and then firemen. Are there sort of archetypes? Are there personality traits that you, I don't know, you or all females fantasize about that you?
Yeah, probably those exactly. Like a fireman, 100%. A doctor. Although I was really disappointed because I think of doctors as like demigods. They're like the ultimate authority to me, and just like the way that they know what to do, or like, we're going to have to go in right now. We have to operate immediately. Like that was so just like sexy to me. I'm totally talking about this from like a Grey's Anatomy vantage point, obviously. And then I went on a date with a doctor. He was a surgeon, and that was like my dream. It was like all I wanted was a doctor, a surgeon, particularly. I went on a blind date with one, and he was so boring, and he was so controlling of like the conversation and of, just, it was like, I couldn't believe it. And I thought, maybe I've got this all wrong. Maybe the ways in which they're so authoritative and, they have to be very controlling, right? In a surgery or in an operating room that, but maybe they're not the people that I would be the best sexual partners or the best people to date. So that was a big disappointment. The fireman was not disappointing at all. The motorcycle rider was not disappointing. The gym guy was not disappointing. Blaze was not disappointing. No, I think that there were definitely some archetypes. I think I needed to fill out. It was almost like, all right, if I'm going to do this research mission, I can't just be like going for the same 10 men. Like it can't be like all one kind. I need to try lots of different kinds to find out the person that ultimately I want to spend more time with. And that just happened. Like it just happened naturally because I wasn't looking for a relationship.
What about age? Blaze was almost 20 years younger.
Yeah.
The gym guy, I think, was a couple of years younger.
Yeah.
And number 6, I think, is like a decade or two older.
Yeah. He's 15 years older.
Tell me about age. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I was really open in the beginning to dating men of any age, younger or older. And I definitely had the fantasy of like, it's pretty flattering when a young man wants you, right? When you're 20 years older than a man or 15 years older and he thinks you're like sexy and amazing, you feel young and sexy and amazing. There's nothing more validating than having like, a man at least a decade younger than you admire your body and your physicality and your sexuality. That said, I think younger men, they're a little bit more about themselves in the bedroom, whereas I found that older men were more. It was more of like they really wanted to please me. That was more of the goal for them. Was like a lot of how they got. That they felt a sexual experience was great. Was not just that it was great for them, but that they wanted it to be great for me too. So I started to see the merits of an older man. And also I just feel like older men, I mean, they're just more settled in their lives. They know who they are. They're not, probably they're not still searching. In the case of number 6, he's divorced. So it's like he's had the life. He's had the life with the kids and the wife. And that's not the life he wants anymore, just like it's not the life I want anymore. So age is all over the place. I mean, I think if I was with a man who was 15 years older, but seemed old, then maybe that would not be so attractive to me. But it's less about the number for me than the mindset. So it's really not I don't think about it numerically anymore. I have friends who date much younger men, and I don't, like, for me, I just don't really see it as being sustainable because you're just in such different parts of your lives. And it's a fun sexually, but that's kind of the end of it. I think it's hard to make that grow into a relationship.
Has religion or politics been an issue?
No. I don't care about religion. I mean, I'm Jewish. I really don't care if I'm with somebody of any race, religion, like none of that matters to me. Politics, yeah, you got me on that. That would be rough for me. I wouldn't be able to, if I wouldn't have dated a Trump supporter. If
you wouldn't have dated a Trump supporter?
No, just no, absolutely not. We would be too misaligned. To me, that's the categories of people that you would have to be to support this man is so off with who I am that I would know that we couldn't work. Same things like if somebody was like against abortion, like I would just know, I would think, no, like we're too off, we're too misaligned. I won't be able to relax. How can I trust you? Like we're not the same people. So I would say politics would be the one thing that would stop me. Whereas race, religion, age wouldn't.
In reading your book, I get the impression that you're really, two types of people, person. You're this downtown urban Manhattanite, and you love the restaurants and the excitement of the city. But then I think you have an upstate New York country home. And you love the country, and you talk about going to the different restaurants and the bakery and the wonderful food and the fresh food and the walks and the smells and all that kind of stuff. Are you both, or are you really more the city person or more the country girl?
I mean, I probably would, if I had to make a choice, I'd stay the city girl because that's really where my primary life is. But I love both so much. And so I always feel this duality. And it used to be that I would spend every summer, like the minute the day school ended until the day school started, I would take the kids to the house upstate and never come back to the city for that time. So it was like 2.5 months. And I loved it. And when it was time for me to pack up and leave the city in June, I would be like, you know what? I love the city so much. I don't even want to go upstate. I love taking the kids to the park. I love the sprinklers. I love the icy man. I don't even want to go. Then I'd get upstate and it would be time to come back to the city in September for school. And I'd be like, I can't go back to the city. I love it up here so much. I just want to stay here. So what I've actually realized about myself is like, wherever I was really happy. I was settled. Like I embraced that life. I love small town life. I love that in my house in the country, I can hear the cows down the road, and that I'm always chasing bunnies out of my garden. I love that. But I also love being able to just walk all over the city and eat different kinds of ethnic food and see really interesting people all the time. And that, if you want pizza at 2:00 in the morning, I mean, I guess I really, that was, I don't know.
And so for a match, for a longer term relationship, not necessarily just for a night, but for a longer term relationship, does the man have to be both, or does he have to be city, or does he have to be country?
I don't think he has to be both. I think he could be either. I think there was one guy I really liked a lot, number 3, who was totally country. And when he came into the city, it felt really weird because it felt like he really felt like a fish out of water. So I actually didn't like being in the city with him. I loved being in the country with him because he was really at home there and comfortable there. But I don't have, right now, like I still have, my daughter is 11, and in middle school. So we have a long road to go still in terms of schooling, and I'll stay here. My intention is to stay in New York forever.
Okay. So let's talk about kids. Would you, I presume number 6 kids are older, and so you don't have to have the worry. Would you date someone that had an 11-year-old or younger?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I sometimes I think I I should. Like, sometimes I think it would be really nice. Like, maybe that would be really nice for my daughter, to have like a playmate, or maybe it would be a nightmare for her. I'm totally open to that. And Six's kids, even though they're older, they're in their early 20s. So I know them well, and I have a very nice relationship, particularly with his daughter, who I've spent more time with. So I like that relationship. I like
What
being
does
able to.
she think of the book?
Well, I mean, I've encouraged her not to read it because I think that's a little TMI about your dad, for her to read that. Like I've said, you can read everything up to the part except about your dad. But she's very proud of it. She's very proud of it. And she will post it on her social media and tell her friends. A lot of her friends have read it. And she loves that I'm, out here talking about this stuff and encouraging her to, have a different kind of a life in her 20s than I had in my 20s. Don't settle down. Don't be so quick to settle down. Have fun, enjoy, sleep with lots of different kinds of men, go be free while you can. So, I think she's proud of it.
We're chatting tonight with Laura Friedman Williams, the author of a book called Available, which is her memoir of sex and dating after the breakup of a marriage. We're going to take a break, final break, and come back with some concluding comments in just a minute. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm having a really fun time today talking to Laura Friedman Williams, who is the second time I've interviewed her. We talked about a month ago, and if you're interested, you should reach out and listen to that video or podcast more about the book and about her divorce in that conversation. And this time we were talking a little bit more about sex. I spent Labor Day weekend listening to her book and just loved it. It's called Available. It's available on Audible, at Amazon, bookstores, etc. Laura, I wonder if I could ask you, a deep question, if I could.
Sure.
You had what was it, a 17-year marriage?
27.
27.
I was with him for 27 years. Yeah.
27-year marriage. And you say that you got married too quickly and that you didn't have the experiences in your 20s that you could have, and that you encourage other people to have today. And you've had a wonderful experience in the last couple of years of your almost your own sexual revolution experience. What do you think about marriage today and about monogamy? Is marriage not forever?
I don't know. I mean, I think it really depends on how you define marriage. I think I hope when people get married, their expectation is that it will be forever. And I think you cannot see the curveballs life is going to throw you. You also cannot see the ways in which you personally will change, and it may not align with your partner anymore. So I certainly, now I'm 51, a lot of my friends have been married for decades, and I see successful marriages. But I also see a lot of marriages that feel like the success of it is just that they're still together, that's the definition of success. It lasted. And so sometimes when I see people and they have anniversaries, like 50th anniversaries, and I think, would I have wanted that? Like, this is a couple, I don't know. They don't always seem so happy. There's a lot of fighting. I think about my own grandparents, who are married for 60 years, but miserable. And so do I believe in marriage? I definitely have a jaded view of marriage. I'm not excited about marriage anymore. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I got it. It wasn't forever.
What about monogamy?
I think the thing about monogamy is that a lot of people, like you touched on this, about the fact that you would not have been able, you feel that you would not have been able to encourage a woman you were with to be with another man, even for a one night stand, for a fantasy.
Not Blaze, like my God.
But why? Blaze, there was no future. He lived in an island somewhere. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to run off to go live in the Caribbean with him. So really, he was the least threatening person of all. There was no possibility of my doing it again. I mean, maybe the next night, but I can't fly back there. But I mean, for me, I think it's very important for people to be able to maintain their own private lives, even in a relationship. We don't own each other, and we can't control each other. And so if I trust someone and they want to, and sex is very important for them. And they want to be able to continue to have sexual experiences with people who are not me. That's okay with me. I'm not saying it makes me comfortable. I'll probably feel, it hasn't happened to me yet. Uh, it might make me uncomfortable, but I would be uncomfortable being a person who said you can't do that. And then on the reverse side, I feel the same for me. I feel like it's very important for people to be able to have some freedom. You can have commitment and freedom at the same time. I truly believe that. I can't be in multiple relationships. I'm not like polyamorous. I don't think I could. I don't have enough wherewithal to date more than one person at a time, to be emotionally committed to more than one person. That sounds exhausting. One is plenty. But sexually, if I'm curious about having an experience with somebody, I want to be able to flirt with people still. I love flirting, and I would like to be wanted. And if that's still important to me, but I'm committed in a relationship with somebody else, why can't I have that? I mean, people have friendships, people have, right? Like, I remember once my husband saying to me, this was like maybe a year before we split up, I wish you would talk to me the way that you talk to your girlfriends. Like, you're so free and happy with them. You're so open and free and happy, and you're never really like that with me. And so for me, it's like sex is just another aspect of that. Like, if I need to go fulfill something in me, if I have an itch, that needs to be desired by somebody totally different than the guy I'm dating, I'm just scratching an itch, and then I go back.
You're just scratching the itch.
Yeah.
What if your husband had said, I'm just scratching an itch, forgive me, and let's keep together. Let's stay together.
Well, if he had come to me and talked about it with me, I don't know. I mean, I think I say very openly in the book and in interviews, I've said very openly that if he had had a one night stand, I'm not sure that it would have killed me. I don't even know he says he claims he didn't, but this man had a lot of freedom. He traveled a lot in the course of our lives together. So I'm not convinced it didn't happen. And I would have wanted to know, but I don't think I would have been, it just would have been sex. I'm okay with that. That's not what happened. In his case, he fell in love with another woman. That was not acceptable to me. And so that's what I'm talking about. There's commitment. You're committed to be in love with me. I have to be the only one you're in a relationship with. But a one night stand, if he had
so
come,
you think
honestly,
you think you probably could have and would have forgiven a one night stand, particularly if he was honest about it and forthcoming about it.
I really do. It's really hard for me to imagine. I mean, you never know what you'll do until you're in that situation and what you're going to feel. So I could be wrong, but I can't imagine that I would have blown up my life and my family over his having a one night stand that he had no emotional connection to. I believe that sex can just be sex. It's physical, it's sexual. It doesn't always have to have an emotional component. I cannot imagine that would have destroyed me. What destroyed me was that he was in love with another woman. That's different. So monogamy, it depends on how you're talking about it. If you're talking about it in a sort of polyamorous situation where you're dating multiple people, I couldn't do that. But just to have, having the freedom to still just like sleep with everyone. By the way, I really haven't done it in a long time. It's been COVID. I haven't had the opportunity to or the desire. But psychologically, I need to know that door is always open. Maybe I'll never walk through that door again, but psychologically, I need to know it exists for me.
So if you had to, number one, say something to the 20-year-old Laura Williams, or Laura Friedman Williams, or number two, to the Laura Friedman Williams, the day that she found out about her husband's infidelity, what would you tell those two different people?
Well, for the 20-year-old, I would really be very clear. Don't lose yourself. Don't lose yourself in marriage and motherhood. Have the marriage, have the motherhood. Stay yourself too. Always prioritize yourself, take care of yourself. And I don't mean self-care. I mean, have an identity that exists. That's all yours, whatever that is. That's what I would tell the 20-year-old. And also maybe like go out and do more things. Don't be so quick to settle down. Be with more different kinds of people. You don't need to be in such a rush to get married. You don't need to have kids right away. You can go and live a little and then settle down. That's what I would tell the 20-year-old. what I would tell that 47-year-old, I mean, it breaks my heart to even think of that person that day. I would just say it's going to be okay. You're going to live your best life when you get through this to the other side. But it takes time and patience and a lot of strength, and you will be okay. I wish I'd known that I'd be okay then, because I certainly didn't feel for a long time that I would ever be okay again.
So it's been 4 years and you really think you lived your best life. That's great. Congratulations.
I feel like I'm living life on my own terms now. So yeah, I mean, I think there were a lot of things. It was scary to write that book. It was scary to put myself out there. I did it. I survived. You know, it didn't kill me. Like none of this has killed me yet. I'm still here. So,
well, it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful to spend Labor Day weekend with you, even if it was just virtually via Audible. But
thank you.
I've gone through my own situations, and it was really interesting for me to have a girlfriend. And maybe your husband was right when he wanted you to speak to him like you speak to your girlfriends, because I felt like you were speaking to me like you were my girlfriend or one of my friends, and that happened to be female. And I loved it. And I loved the stories, but more than just the stories, which were, kind of titillating and stuff like that, were the experiences, because I think that there is a lot of lessons in what you wrote. And so thank you so much, Laura Friedman Williams, for today, for the last interview, and for the book, which I really enjoyed reading. I commend it to anyone that, number one, wants some fun, but then also, number two, for anyone that's going through a divorce or a separation or some infidelity, or wondering about what to do in middle life. It's a great book. Remind us what it's called and where one can find it.
Thank you, Brian. It's called Available, A Memoir of Sex and Dating After a Marriage Ends. And you can find it on Audible, on Amazon. You can also find me on Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I always answer. I love to hear from readers and listeners. It always delights me to know what people think. And actually, Brian, I wish I could interview you, because I'm so curious about the male perspective. I'm curious about the male perspective reading the female perspective. So, if you ever want me to interview you on your radio show, invite me back. I'll have a list of questions. I'll be ready.
That sounds like a fun time. Yeah. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6:00 on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. You can get all my podcasts and video casts online at briancrombie.com, on YouTube, and on Audible podcasts, Speakeasy, etc. Thanks. Good night, everybody. Laura, have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.